Okay, welcome to Distant Nights. This is episode 1. Let's go with that. It's sort of the continuation of this after the time skip, which took about a year, updating to a new version. Yes, 0.8.1 currently, build 1. And my music is not playing. I should also probably state, for the record, we have a number of new faces. Obviously, Lewis and Rick are reprising previous roles as Charlissandra and Lexie Bennet, irrespectively.
Hey.
We also have Hex and Lisa, both of who have been on Aftermath, so they're not exactly 100% new. And then there's Netcable and Lilo, who are completely new to this. So,
Static is going crazy. I think Lisa's thing is catching on.
yeah, it's spreading.
She infected you.
It's
Oh
been
god, I'm such a problem.
So, guys, it's been a year. At least it's been a year, God words, for the two of you. That's 507 25-hour days.
Oh god.
Roughly. Yep, you're welcome. Town
That's
calendar.
too many.
I will send you a proper calendar at some point. I do have one. So, the crew were last with you as you took the Zedocs out from under the noses of military officials who decided to look the other way, with little to no authority and the inability to actually properly change the ownership of the ship. But you took it, went on your way, and they never saw a thing. Over the next 3-4 months, you spent your time in seedy bars, dangerous taverns, and other such establishments, slowly working through merc boards, working your way up, and building up enough credits to eventually fake the identifications required to reset the ship's transponder, and eventually, finally, officially become documented as the owners of the ship. You're now able to return, after those 4 months, to civilized space. Upon doing so, you manage to slowly pick up a number of crew members along the way, including one that you brought with you from all the way out in the sticks. You've been working odd jobs, as mercenaries, as transport. Your ship has a pair of reasonably sized guns, and it has a reasonably sized cargo hold. She's not slow, and she'll get most jobs done to some degree.
Yep.
You've been working these odd jobs for around a year now. The most recent addition to your crew was only 2 months ago, but even that seems like forever ago, with some of the crazy things that have already happened in that time, boring as they might be on the day-to-day basis of things. None of the jobs recently, in fact especially recently, have been paying well. Ever since the last war started, around a year ago, slightly longer, you have found yourselves in a bit of a economic crisis. Just as you needed the most money you've ever had in your life, you suddenly couldn't get any. Normally wouldn't take 4 months to fake identifications for a ship, but with the economy nearly crashing, and the Alliance military's presence on the rise, as conscription even is rabid among most stations, it's been a dangerous place staying alive and staying out of military hands. Although 2 of you, I believe, have exemption to this.
Who's that?
It's you and it is Lexie and Charlissandra, if you remember, were given exemption for conscription, something I assume has never been explained to the other members of your crew.
When did we get that? I remember asking for it. I don't remember getting given it.
Wait, we were given what?
Whether you were told you were given it or not is another matter, but you may at some point have found out you were.
Oh, shite.
Yeah, sorry,
Strange.
but what did we get given? You said?
Exemption from conscription.
You can't be conscripted. You're considered
Oh.
higher members of society for the purposes of conscription, which
Nice.
makes little to no sense, but
I'm a university professor. Can I get exemption to?
You're also out in the frontier. It's mostly anyone's game out here, especially if you're living out here.
Can I get exemption if I was kicked out of the military?
Yes, you would have exemption from conscription because you have a dishonorable discharge.
Yeah.
Which,
How am I not a higher member of society?
because you happen to live in the frontier, and that's too bad for you, as far as that goes. Most of these things are very core-centric.
The two
There is-
criminals are high members of society, and the university professor isn't.
For the purposes of conscription. Not for anything else, but you seem to have somehow
Yeah.
weirdly be on lists you shouldn't be.
Still,
Oh, I know why.
I love it.
I've worked out why.
That's a good
that
start.
person that we see. Yeah.
May or may not be
Okay.
that, yes.
Why? What did you say?
Just FYI, kid. Every time that we are in conscription comes up, it will be like, no, not again, not again.
And not again indeed. With
I'm
the
just
inability...
gonna say that I'm convinced I'm not gonna be conscripted.
Sure. It does seem to be that way. Especially with half your crew currently unable to be conscripted, people seem to just steer clear of this band of mercenaries that are particularly strange looking on any logs. An ex-military, a professor, a pair of mercenaries, and some high society members that also are showing up as just outlanders from the frontier. No one of note. Strange. You have, over the last year, heard the name the ACSS-3 Adventure. Thrown around a few times. It's your old ship. As the only known survivor
You mean
of the Distant
Unicorn?
Nights catastrophe. No other ships ever returned from the trip that you were originally part of. The entire Distant Nights fleet vanished without trace, and the story of the ACSS-3 Adventure is somewhat of a conspiracy at this point, as it seems Captain Johnny has been somewhat reluctant to give over any information whatsoever regarding it. However, in recent days, footage has made its way onto the holonet that might,
from the alien encounter?
from the encounter that you had in deep space, that might seem a little familiar to you. Your footage.
Nice.
Snapshots of a strange green triangular creature or craft of some description, shortly destroying parts, the warp drive rings of the ACSS-4 Adventure at the time, before disappearing as quickly as it appeared, seemingly vanishing into nowhere, without an engine in sight. It's a strange, perhaps organic craft, at best. You've all seen this footage. It's been everywhere recently. But no one knows quite what it is. And then, this morning, at, if I can find the bot, I don't know if this will work.
Received transmission from an unidentified
There we
sender
go.
today at 0600 AM. Playing transmission.
Captain Lexie Bennet, I have a job for you. We've spoken once before, but I doubt you remember me. I need a crew with your particular talents, and frankly, I don't know who else to trust.
You can tell
If
we
you're
organised
interested,
this
come
ahead
to
of time.
Capital Spire and meet with one Mr. Smith Johnson at the Inter-Orbital Office on Promenade 3, Level 24.
Oh,
There's a
perfect
$500,000
planning.
credits in it for you.
No issues.
There we go. The message is clearly automated. Text-to-speech, typed up. And it seems to have been gone through a number of distortion filters for some reason, before being transmitted, as far as you can tell, from Capital Spire. Nearly halfway across the galaxy from your current location. It'll take a significant chunk of time to get there, But 500,000 credits is far more than you've earned in a very long time. Or ever. That in mind, I believe you chose to accept this mission. Make your way there. The journey would take around a month, due solely to the distance, as you have to fly nearly 50,000 light years across the known galaxy, reaching what is essentially the heart of civilization. If we zoom in on the map here, Capital Spire is the original seat of Parliament for the Alliance, a space station built equidistant between the Terra Lux system and Venzai, the first two members of the Alliance. Additionally, it happens to be near equidistant from the first Ring World, although at the time this wasn't known. After a month or so of travel, bringing us to the current day, you find yourself arriving at an old space station, yet well kept, in immaculate, pristine condition. There are some of the original modules still in place, clearly kept as almost museum pieces, with far larger, more grandiose structures around them, as the station holds some significant historical value for the Alliance.
Ooh, exciting.
As you pull into dock, you are greeted the lights and sounds of a fully fledged space station. This is where we begin. So, as you set down for landing, what's everyone doing?
I would
Probably on the bridge.
Yeah, same. I'll probably be piloting at the moment, in fact.
Alright.
Probably be in the middle of like a spiel to Seraph. Seraph? Right? Seraph? Yes. Right? Seraph? Anyway. In the middle of a spiel about all the history of this spaceship and like what it means to the Alliance. I'm just going like, oh my god, and this bit, and this bit, and this bit.
Alright. Yeah, Capital Spire has always held importance among the Alliance. You can quite easily sort of convey this, but it's more than just the fact that it was the original sort of seat of Parliament, the place where the original alliance was signed. It's there have been a number of other historic events taking place here, and it's one of the few remaining relics, and it's also one of the few places that has any of the remnants of Terra Maxima, the original homeworlds of the Terrans, left, as there are still a few plant species that grow on this station that have been kept here, that were here during the incident at Bihadral, which led to the destruction of Terra Maxima.
I mean, I know that we have a job to do, but if I could get in there and take a look at those plant species, I would freak out. I'm telling you, it'd be so cool. It's the last remaining plant species from Terra fucking Maxima, man. You don't see that shit every day. Oh, so excited.
So hyper. Oh my god.
I'll just put music on in my ears and just drown this out.
Yeah, you choose to set on some. What type of music would Lexie listen to? There's a question for you.
Metal of some sort.
All right.
Yeah.
You choose to.
Charlissandra too, definitely metal.
Yeah, it'll be like heavy metal bullshit.
Okay, the pair of you end up just sort of putting some heavy metal. A few guys are you the only ones on the bridge?
Oh my god. Please say we have like a fucking killer sound installation and just metal is blaring on the whole bridge.
Fuck it, yes. Yes.
From the bridge of a combat ship, yeah, you would have some really good sound insulation up there.
Kid will also probably be on.
Fuck's sake! I didn't realize I was fucking muted. I thought, why is everyone fucking interrupting me? Oh, god damn it! God fucking damn it!
You do that shit, man.
Yeah.
Kid is probably on the bridge in like an engineering seat.
Alright, yeah.
Sitting with his last gun, half paying attention to what is on the screens and half fiddling with it, doing some stuff, just messing around.
Yeah.
He may also have a mine also on his lap that he was fiddling with earlier.
The bridge is a relatively boxy room.
It's
There's 2 doors leading into it. One of them seems to lead into a, perhaps at one point a captain's ready room, although when you acquired the ship it just had a number of empty containers that looked like you could store bodies in them if you wanted, on tables in it.
Was that also the room that had quite a few scorch marks after we fucked up?
Yes.
Right.
There's a number of seats throughout the bridge, I believe 5. One that obviously Lexie's occupying in the centre, and a trio of huge vid screens across the front of the bridge. Each of the seats also has a whole array of screens around them and controls of them. You're setting up like any one of the stations as they'll adapt to whatever you want. With essentially an engineering loadout showing different readouts of the current station and the bridge, and sort of fiddling away with dangerous equipment as you do.
Yeah, he's trying to keep the mine away from the viewing eyes of Lexie, because I assume we had a few conversations about mines on the ship.
I would immediately kick you out the cockpit at least. Yes.
Yeah, he's like keeping half like underneath like a trench coat type thing and try to yeah.
Sure.
Do I need to roll a perception test versus his sleight of hand or some bullshit here?
Nah, I'm gonna say he's probably skilled enough at hiding a mine. If he's not doing anything with it, he's probably learned how to do it by now at this point.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and I'll go through the docking procedures then and try to get through as quick as possible.
Alright, yeah. You managed to get clearance. They've got a number of docking tubes available. Obviously your ship doesn't have landing gear, but you do have a pair of shuttles should you need them. So you instead just dock to the station directly.
Yeah.
The docking tubes are actually near the rear of the top level. So
I won't
pretty close
try
to the bridge.
to do it too fast because I don't want to get told off again.
Yeah, okay. So this time you actually come in at
You don't
a
want to ram
sensible
into the
speed.
docking collar.
Yeah, I'll obey the speed limits. Like, I'm at the speed limit, but I'm obeying them.
That's fair. I mean,
It's not like the RimWorld things where I'll just ignore them. Like, the speed limit's the speed limit plus about 20.
yeah. Out
5.
on the frontier, speed limits are more of a suggestion. But here you can see visually out of the video screens. You can just see sitting around a number of patrol ships, and well, that means there's a lot of them here. This place seems to be very heavily guarded for what it is. And you also see a number of huge turrets built onto the station itself. It looks like it could probably defend itself quite handily if it needed.
Yeah, so I won't push it too much.
Yeah. You take things a little seriously and slightly slower than normal, but you pull up in good time and you dock niftily to the station. Something you're capable of and done many times before.
How big is this station?
The station itself would be about 10-15 kilometers in length in total. The original station, the bits you can see, are maybe reaching half a kilometer. And they appear to be stored, fully contained inside this station. The modern version. And that there's a huge, clearly reinforced as shit glass, or plexiglass or something like that, window that you can see them through. And on the other side, there's viewing galleries and things.
Do we get kind of a blueprint type of the station?
You get not so much a
the map. Yeah.
Yeah, not so much a blueprint,
map.
but you get pinged as you dock. You get an information pamphlet type thing that it has a public access map across the station.
Yeah,
I'm just going to look through this and kind of learn it to memory, also / figuring out where you would put the explosives if you want to destroy the whole station.
Okay. It's not really detailed enough for that, but you've got some experience, and you quickly enough put together a rough idea, although you're not sure how effective it would be or how much you'd need, because it doesn't show the systems, it just shows the areas you can go.
Yeah, it's more part of the game. Yeah, I'm just trying to get him so that he knows where fuck that layout so we can get around.
Yeah.
As
I
we
think-
finish docking, I'll make an announcement to everyone, just announcing how we've docked, and I need to go through some rules because we're fucked otherwise.
All right.
Right.
Lilo, what were you gonna say?
I think I'm going to kind of study the map too, so I already can guess where are the safe spots and where are the dangerous ones where we could get in trouble.
Okay. Yeah. You look through it. I mean, this far into the core's a little bit out of all of your expertise, really. But it's if it was a frontier station, you can pretty handily pick out where the places not to go would be. Although you expect it to be a little better here than you would normally expect. That wording, but
Those
yeah.
places not to go is probably where we're going anyway.
It doesn't look
Should
like it,
we-
actually. Looking at the map, your set, the address you were given, sets you pretty much directly in the center of a sort of business district-like area that's stuck onto one of the like shopping promenades that's in the station. It's almost like a
Right.
tower block that sticks outside the station.
Should we maybe describe ourselves as well?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that?
Well, I'm Kit. He's a Freyan. He has dark blue fur with a bunch of like white freckles, especially around his hands. He's definitely from chemical burns, normal burns. Yeah, just damage to his skin, so he's lost his pigment on many places. A lot of it has kind of been covered. There's always like something dirty, grease, some sort of black powder on his face or on his hands. He has most of one ear missing. It's basically just a tiny couple of centimeters. He's 80 centimeters high,
Yes.
or 80 meters short.
Which is as short
yeah.
as Freyans get, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's tiny.
Okay. I guess Lexie, you're up.
Yeah, Lexie, she's a Terran, quite young, only 24, which is, as I said, is young for like Terrans.
Yeah, very young.
1.9 meters, 91 meters tall, so quite tall as well.
Mhm.
Shoulder length brown hair, sort of all black and red, sort of full combat constantly, even when like relaxing full combat sort of stuff, and just sort of walks around quite tall, back straight, sort of not giving a shit, but sort of still demanding a presence if possible.
Yeah.
How tall are you?
1 meter, 1 meter 91.
Very tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are a pretty demanding figure, but rightly so, I suppose.
Yeah, I've got a big safe as well,
Yes.
which sometimes starts flashing.
Yeah, occasionally. Lilo, how do you describe yourself?
Lilo.
No.
Lilo?
Lolo.
Oh,
Oh,
Lilo?
oh,
Oh.
You there?
internet's dead.
Your internet's
Internet's
fine.
dead.
No,
So,
not again.
yeah, do net cable and hopefully it'll fix.
Yeah. Okay, net cable. We'll
Alright.
skip to you, and then we'll come back if
Well,
we're not close together.
Alright, Seraph almost looks, well, he's quite a tall figure as well. He's about roughly 2 meters tall. His body has elongated limbs. His legs and arms are quite long and thin, but still sturdy. If you've watched Star Wars, the K2SO is quite similar to his metal looks dinged up, scratched, but still sturdy. Like, it looks worn, but it still looks like it could give you a good thrashing. With his faceplate, there's a distinctive 3 lenses on one side and 1 lens on the other. And it gives like this very ever so slight red glow to it. And on top, he obviously is wearing these the medium energized seroplasmic armor. I don't know what that looks like exactly, but yeah, he's wearing that, and then he has a kind of long black military esque coat over everything.
Yeah.
With two weapon holsters, obviously one for a sword and one for a pistol.
Yeah. The armor, for the record, it's sort of plated like it has a almost ceramic like lock to it, but it's
Right.
hardened, and every now and then, if you try and like impact it, it seems to flare up with a bright orange before, as it seems to attempt to absorb any blast with a like an energy armor type deal.
Right.
And yeah, they would be sort of painted like black, like the black ceramic plates you can get.
Yeah. Also, for the record, the outer coat also has like obviously red accents to it here and there.
Yeah.
Couldn't get the right color, but yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I'm back, by the way.
Yes. Okay.
Just FYI.
Well, in that case, perfect. Lilo, why don't you describe yourself then?
My name is Rai'Tarwek. She's a Dulak, a Zanya to be specific. She's the cautious sniper. She's standing in the back, checking out the area, looking if something dangerous is going on, and especially sniping without getting caught or even seen. Yeah.
Oh, that internet? That might...
What does she look like?
She's light purple,
Yeah.
wearing the hard light armor. Not sure how it looks like.
Most of the time, the hard light armor is just not even there. You can't see it. And then whenever it's needed, it sort of seems to shimmer into place.
Okay.
Is-
Then she's also wearing like a light brown cloak or cape, whatever you want to call it, with a so she can hide herself a little, especially in the area, so she's also not getting caught. Yeah.
Yeah, be more of a cloak than a cape in that case.
Yeah.
Got like
More
a
of that.
hood, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cloak. Okay. Lisa, what about you?
So Theodosia Price is a Terran. She is 170 centimeters tall. She's fairly lithe build. She's got sort of tanned, sun-kissed skin, like she's been walking around in a desert for a while, and sort of sun-bleached light brown hair. She always wears her hair in a messy top bun with like pencils and pens and things stuck into it so that she has easy access to her note-taking equipment. Her eyes are yellow with red borders around the iris, and they look a bit like fire. She always tends to wear sort of traditional Indiana Jones style clothing, so like a sort of khaki like outfit with like a button up, and she has semicircle reading glasses.
Oh, okay. All right. And Rick, why don't you describe Charlissandra?
Yes. Charlissandra is a, well, short dragon lady. Short, still being very tall, but short dragons.
Yes, she'd be the tallest of the group, or perhaps not,
Yeah.
rivaled by
This is her, basically.
Seraph.
She has like blue scales, wings, wears a dark hoodie, and like dark tracksuit pants. Jogging pants, tracksuit. Something. Words, English, fucking up. Yeah, she uses a katana and a
Wakazashi.
wakazashi, yes.
Yes.
With like offhand blades. And she also uses lots of guns,
Yes.
but preferably her katana.
Yeah. Surprisingly quiet for someone of her size, and seeming to move with an unexpected grace. She seems to be able to sneak up on most things.
Yeah.
And you really wouldn't expect it.
Yargon,
Yes.
what does a medium energized composite armor 2 look like?
Pretty much the exact same as the medium energized composite armor, which would be instead of the more like ceramic type, it's going to be more metallic slightly, not majorly, but otherwise again it'll be the sort of metallic plates. It comes in quite a lot of plates, again sort of attached to a body glove type thing.
Yeah.
And it flares up orange whenever it's needed.
Can I wear a kind of a trench coat over that with a lot of
Yeah,
pockets in it?
you absolutely could.
Cool.
It's most of the armor is particularly not very bulky. Although I believe
Exactly.
Lexie's would be quite bulky because yours is heavy armor, isn't it?
Yeah, mine's the heavy composite armor, and I would imagine I've sort of painted it to be my sort of
Red and black, yes. Yours would be quite bulky, but the others, they're actually not that bulky, even if they're relatively heavy.
Yeah.
For their... dense is the word. Heavy for their size.
Yeah.
Okay, so, as everyone sort of examines this map, and Lexie begins an announcement, opening a channel shipwide.
And we all need to meet at the exit. I want to go over a couple of rows because we're not in the outer lands or like the outworlds anymore. And if we break a row here, we're fucked. So meet you there at the exit in 5-10 minutes roughly. Right.
Okay. And with a click, the channel goes dead. So, is there anything anyone wants to do? Particularly any gear you want to try and bring onto the station with you?
Oh,
Just my notebook.
can I quickly
just
search
a
up what the rules are on weaponry, in fact?
Yeah, you would find it in the sort of pamphlet pretty easily. It's on the second page, which is a little unusual for you. You'd sort of expect this thing front and center. If you've licensed it, if it's something that you're supposed to have, then you can keep it. You're supposed to keep safety on at all times. You're not supposed to use it, but obviously they're not going to take it off you.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot more American than European in space, if you want to put it that way. They're a bit more lax about the weaponry, but at the same time, they're also aware that if you are going to try and bring explosives, that's no-no, and if you're going to try and bring anything particularly overkill, such as, for instance, a Z3 chain laser, that might get you in trouble. They would want that to be signed in, and you can have that. You can have that essentially like locked away, and then you can get it back whenever you want to leave.
Yeah,
Or you just leave on the ship. That also
I'm
works.
reading through this as well.
Yeah.
Like, if anyone could see his face, he would be like,
Don't worry. What do you think we're going over at the door?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, he's also gonna just run to his room. Make sure that the waifu grenade is armed. And
Yep.
he's gonna put an extra mine on it, just to be sure.
On the with the frag grenade.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's gonna put an extra one on there.
Okay, yeah, you quickly rig up a second one.
He's then gonna put take away his main grenades, his backup grenades. He's still gonna keep his backup grenade.
Oh my god.
And he's also gonna take on with his laser pistol and his laser rifle.
Yeah.
With like 20 crystals.
Okay, so still packing some serious heat, but not quite what you would want.
So you're not bringing the chain laser, did you say?
No, just a laser pistol and laser rifle, yeah?
Okay, I can deal with that. Okay.
Yeah.
Just casually
You can get away
throw
with
the
that.
chain laser to someone's back.
You especially would have certification for everything. Like
Who,
your...
me?
No, not you. Kit. Kit's would be particularly meticulous. You would probably even have certification for the Z3, but
Yeah.
most places are not going to want you taking that in anyway.
Yeah.
Just because of being ex-military, you get that kind of certifications, even with a dishonourable discharge, as long as it wasn't a violent offence. Yours was more of an accident, I believe.
So,
Yeah, it
how
wasn't-
do you know whether you were
Accidentally
certified
shot his
to
head
be
off.
carrying a weapon?
Sorry, what's that?
How do you know whether you're certified to be carrying a weapon?
Essentially, you probably are. Unless it is
Okay.
something that you've bought off the black market, you're probably certified to be carrying it.
Right, okay.
Your certifications might be a little outdated, they might be a little lax. Kits would be the best out of everyone's, just by being ex-military, but everyone would have the certification required for them.
I mean, I imagine
I'll bring
Charlissandra
my
was pretty
two.
good ones too.
I'll just
Yeah.
bring my daggers
Being
and
a
my guns.
boss.
The only weapons I have.
Yeah.
All like on my belt.
Okay.
Adventurer's belt.
The daggers, weirdly, don't require certification. It's almost like you're carrying a knife, and that's kind of normal. Because they're really useful things. Like a dive knife, but, you know. Space.
I'll bring my scythe,
Space knife.
Okay.
and
did we establish-
two
I-
flashbangs.
Did we establish if your scythe folds? I think it does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I think it
it
did,
folds.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Just throw it back so it unfolds when I bring it out.
Yes. So you were.
If it didn't previously, it does now.
Yeah. I mean that's a modification. I think we established that it did.
Yeah.
And if it didn't,
Yeah.
that's a modification you would definitely have made at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah. So. Okay. Lilo, what are you bringing?
I'm not sure, is a sniper rifle too overkill?
It would be sort of a little bit suspicious. You might raise a few eyebrows, but it's not. They're not going to take it off you. They're not going to stop you by the look of things. Unless you bought it off a black market, in which case they're going to take it off you and
Yeah, okay.
question you.
Okay. Then I think I'll leave the sniper rifle on the ship and just take my dagger or knife
Okay.
with me. But a little bit hid so no one can see it or grab it at
Yeah, you
the
just
first
sort of
sight.
put it sort of like under your cloak and. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So, you all sort of make your way to your rooms, grab your gear, stow some gear, and make your way back over to the airlock, I assume.
Yeah. As soon as Kit walks in, I'll look at him and go, flashbangs only.
Kit? Hex.
He's dead.
Yay, everyone is dying.
Oh, this is the episode of technical difficulties.
Well, at least we're getting it out of the way early. Let's see his,
Is the elevator music playing now?
is he gonna live?
Clear!
Good start.
Oh, loving it. Nah, Hex seems to just be dead.
Oh, right, sorry, I muted myself, sorry.
I'm
Right,
not the only
that's
one.
twice.
Oh.
This
Sorry.
is the episode of people muting themselves.
Yeah, this is we need to get into it. Sorry. Yeah, Kit is gonna pull out 2 grenades. He's still gonna keep one a high explosive grenade on, like, basically in his one like really hidden space, like a hidden pocket inside his robe.
Yeah, okay.
You mean his prison pocket?
And like 2 flashbangs. And he's just gonna be like mumbling to him, like, this is my backup script. Stuff my focus will get killed on this stupid space station. Like, and then he's gonna walk past.
You're gonna get us killed on here.
He
As,
is.
Lexie calls you out, you stow your grenades.
I'm
Okay.
gonna try to
Hire him.
get one past him.
Yeah. All right.
Hardmechs can't really give expressions, can they?
Not really. You can be
Right.
expressive with your body language, just not facially.
Well, essentially face bombs.
Yeah, you can do that. That works.
Face palming is not a facial expression, okay?
Yeah.
I'm aware, but that's the way I'm gonna express myself.
There's a loud clank of metal. Clonk.
You
Yeah,
know
he
you
also has
was
this.
already face palming.
Yeah.
Kit also has his, like, yeah, you can see his rifle is slung behind his back, and he has. You will basically have a boot pistol, where, like, he will put his pistol in his boot, so it's kind of semi-hidden.
Okay. Is it a proper holster, or have you just wedged it down the side of your boot?
It's kind of like half. It's something that he's done for, like, that's where he normally keeps it. So he would have modified his boots to kind of be a semi-holster,
Oh, okay. So
kind of over like a year, but like, yeah,
yeah, okay. So like sort of, but not
sort
quite.
of. It's homemade.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Designed to hide rather than sort of be comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I mean that works. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you arrive at the airlock. What rules did you want to go over, Lexie?
That was it. Pretty much making sure Kit didn't walk in with high explosives and a chain laser.
Okay. So, yeah, with that you are.
Also, comms on at all times. Make sure you've got your earpiece in. Because I would imagine I've got like 50 of them. I would imagine everyone's got one of these by now.
Yeah, I
How
believe you.
exactly do I put an earpiece in when I don't have an ear?
If
well,
anything goes wrong,
You can
You don't
plug it
need one.
into your internal cores.
I
Your audio sensor.
Yeah.
Or
If
they've
anyone,
built
if
into you already.
anything goes wrong, just scream Jenga into your earpiece.
Yep.
Mhm.
Jenga's our safe word.
Is it?
Okay.
Okay.
That's very creative.
I know. It is. It's totally
Yeah.
not like we've copied
Also
this
quite
off the
strange.
internet or anything.
Yeah, it's hasn't gone wrong for you yet at all.
No.
What about watermelon?
No games of competitive Jenga so far. No.
What about watermelon?
Too long.
Yeah.
Monkey bottoms.
Also, it's harder to get
That's even longer.
watermelon in a conversation than Jenga.
It is really not.
Are you sure?
Yes, well, I push up my glasses. Actually, Jenga hasn't been.
I just leave.
Okay, as soon as the actually comes out, you hear the sort of the hissing sound of the airlock seal breaking as the pressure equalizes briefly between the inside and the outside of the ship. As you step out, both doors of the airlock opening, reading full atmosphere on the far side.
I was
As the
just
ash
gonna
actually
say
comes
that
out, you just
Jenga hasn't been played in millennia.
No, that's not true. I played it like a year ago.
Starting banging on the airlock door, just like, let me out, let me out, let me out.
Yeah, as it
Calm down.
and then
Calm down.
clunks open.
And then I'm like, actually, I played it last year.
Well, that wouldn't have been Jenga, darling. I'm the historian.
Yeah, and I know what I played.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure we probably would have bought a game of Jenga by now, so right.
Yeah,
Probably somewhere.
yeah.
You also may have noticed that competitive Jenga does appear to be a thing, but only on that one station.
Nice.
Like it's weird.
But yeah,
Drunk competitive Jenga. Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, so you're telling me that you've actually seen an actual original Jenga game in person?
Yeah. I've played it.
Okay, can we go there next?
That was miles away.
Well, everything's miles away. We're in space.
systems away. It was literally where we picked you up, pretty much.
Halfway
Well,
across
no,
the
it
galaxy.
wouldn't have been because then I would have known about it. So
Well, it was in the vicinity of there, which is sort of
Yeah,
it was in that sector, which is like halfway across the galaxy.
Remember that story where Lexie
It was also
hacked her own door
it's also
and got arrested?
a very illegitimate station. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's not
Would
unlikely you
probably
haven't
be
heard of it.
worse.
That's fine.
But anyway, I would probably start leading the way
Yeah.
and sort of go up to the security checks.
Yeah, you step up to it. There appears to be a ID chip scanner.
Yeah.
As you exit, that wants to log everyone on and off the station. And as you step out, there's basically a pair of like guards standing by the door, quite clearly sort of waiting for you to arrive. They're obviously station guards, and they're obviously not expecting trouble. They're wearing what appear to be just sort of like crisp white uniforms with like the blue like visors on that they're clearly reading some information off as you step out. And one of them looks up and the visor like blinks off.
Ew.
Right, Captain Lexie Bennet, is it?
Aye.
Right, wonderful. This is your crew, I presume. Do any of you have anything to declare?
Got a couple of weapons on us.
That's sort of assumed. What weapons do you carry?
Only thing I've noticed really is a scythe, couple of like sidearms and a rifle, and a couple of flashbangs.
All right. Do you have documentation for these, or are we going to have to take them off you?
Should do. I would imagine I've got it on my data state,
Yeah.
like for everyone.
Yeah, you could probably just sort of ping him a data packet and he'll get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ping that over and he looks in. Very well, everything seems to be in order here. Alright,
Yeah.
if you'll step through the scanner and on your way. And there's sort of like an archway in front of you. It's like clearly a scanner of some kind.
Do I know the address or like where we're meant to go? By the way.
Yeah, it was in the transmission. was
Yeah.
on one of the promenades. I do actually have it here. Let me find it.
I would quickly mention the address to the guards. Just go, hey, have you ever heard of such and such, and do you know who stays there or operates out of there?
As he's talking to you guys, I'm going to the sensor. Just gonna continue walking.
Yeah, it was, okay, cool, I have half the address here, but it was level 23 on the one promenades, and you give him the address, and he's, yes, that is the interorbital offices. They have a relatively large corporation status set up here. Do you have business with them?
Turns out, yes.
Very well. Would you like us to arrange a meeting, or do you already have one?
Who knows? We'll just turn up and see what happens.
Very well. A
This
reckless
is
approach,
an
as to be
entire
expected.
weird thing for us. But yeah.
I see. Very well.
Right.
Have a wonderful day. Like, step to the
Yep.
side, clear gesturing for you guys to go on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Head on.
Yeah. You see the, like, visor blinks back on, and he seems to be, like, reading the news or something on it. Like, he's clearly not really paying attention as you guys step through. And
Yeah.
there's a sort of blue beam that, like, scans over each of you as you step through it, and doesn't find anything. And, yeah.
Kit has a smile on his face when he doesn't get picked up on
It doesn't seem to, nothing seems to pick up on it. So you step through and into what is very suddenly a very loud room. As you realise that the particular entrance point appears to be noise cancelled, and as you step out into the centre of this station, you see it sort of rises up in front of you. There's a number of like docking areas around the base, and then the walls of this station, maybe a half kilometre across, in this sort of cylindrical drum, all have, like, buildings isn't really the best term, they all have things on them. And they all seem to be floor, as you just walk up onto this floor, for lack of a better term, on the side, and can sort of walk on up the walls of this station, where it seems to be this sort of, like, drum-like scenario.
Yep.
As you can suddenly hear almost every conversation at once. It's really quite loud, actually, in here. And you see a number of like markers marking levels 1, 2, 3, and so on, going up, and you see all the different promenades labelled, and you're like, you can head on towards the address you were given if you wish.
Yep.
I put in
I'll
my
bring-
AirPods. AirPods.
Yeah, I'll bring
as
out
stuff
the
one-
Apple
no,
maps and use that to guide us.
Okay. Yeah, you
Get to the wrong place.
you pull up the map you were given, and
No. I use Yahoo Maps.
okay, so you pull up the map you were given, close that, and then pull up a slightly outdated map that you find on the HoloNet. Like, that's much better. And type in the address you want, and it seems to sort of lead you through like 3 walls that you can see clearly as the line like clips through. It's like, not the best, but it works. Much more your style than this fancy tech.
Kit gonna take his one good air and stuff like the top of it down into like his air hole so that it mutes it.
Okay, you sort of like loop your ear over, so that
Yep.
you suddenly everything's a lot quieter.
I'll talk
Just
to
need to
the
do with the
lady
one
who's
good air
dancing
though.
Yeah, well the other one's deaf, so
on. By the way, Tom.
Yeah?
Would I would been able to get like some vocalizers for us all during the time, correct?
not sub vocalizers.
All right.
Yeah, sub
Oh.
vocals seem to be near impossible to come across.
Yeah. All right. So I couldn't find any on the black markets or anything.
No, they're like they shouldn't be, but they're like weirdly difficult to get hold of.
What does the vocalize again? I thought we had some last time.
No, Shadowrun.
Oh.
They're
Ah,
like
yes.
they're like a comm system where you don't actually have to say anything. You just like kind of say it, but not quite, and it picks up
Basically,
on
you
it.
can mumble it.
Yeah.
Effectively. Basically make the sound with your vocal, but you don't need to actually open your mouth.
I tried for the entirety of last game to get them, but
Yeah,
couldn't find any.
they're just really weirdly rare, and you can't seem to... for one thing, you've no idea why. You can't seem to get any leads on them whatsoever. It's actually quite weird.
Yeah.
Um,
But anyway.
yeah.
I'll follow Yahoo Maps
Okay,
when
so...
it leads to the building next door. Work that out.
Yeah, you make your way over and you reach the Alliance Armory, a big building that states it's the Alliance Armory office. Look one over and oh, that's Interorbital next to it. You're the wrong one. Step over and reach the Interorbital office. It's this. It appears to be an office block, and you're at the sort of reception area. There's a pair of large glass doors, and the floor quite quickly curves away from under you, as it actually does a 180 and takes you onto the other side, as they seem to protrude out into space. So it's quite a strange feeling walking around that, but you step into the office. It's very sort of smooth panelled, with glass everywhere, and this very white, sleek atmosphere. It's especially uncomfortable for you, Kit. It's not what you're used to at all. It's just the opposite of what you're used to, which is function. This is very aesthetically pleasing, not so... none of it looks functional. It looks like why have you covered the wires? You can't access them. It's strange. And as you step in, there's a desk at one end where there's the receptionist. There's a Dulak woman who's sitting there, seems to be working away on a one-sided screen.
Yeah.
She's just staring into the middle distance in front of you guys. What it kind of looks like is clearly looking at a screen that you can't see from your side. And looks up as you enter. Ah, hello. Can I help you?
Hello, we got talk to report here. By someone. We're not sure who.
That's interesting. Do you have an appointment?
No, but I do have a data transmission that calls us here.
Very well. Would you like to make an appointment? Do you know who you're trying to talk to?
No. We're a crew, used to go on the ACS Adventure. Two of us it was, and we are on the Zedox ship now.
There seems to be a just sort of blank look. She doesn't seem to recognise either of us. I'm afraid I don't keep up to date with most of the shipping through this district.
Just show the transmission.
Yeah, I'll send that over to her.
Okay. Yeah, you send over the transmission. She gets this clearly sort of edited and someone trying to hide who they are transmission. And you see the waveform appears on the screen because you have access to the file. You see it. It's kind of just floating there, and it begins to play. And you don't hear anything. You see the waveform moving, and after a moment or two, it stops. All right, Mr. Smith Johnson. And she looks through the, clearly pulls something up and looks through it. Ah, yes. Level 23. I see. Yes, apparently you're expected.
Fair enough.
And she types away for a moment or two. Sorry. You're also about a month late. That's interesting. I will.
We had to travel across the universe.
Galaxy.
Same thing.
Very well. How strange. I will have him notified of your arrival, and she sort of gestures to a pair of doors behind her, where what appears to be almost seamless wall folds open, revealing an elevator that sort of just has one glass window in it that just looks out over the space as it seems to be on the outside of the building.
Yep.
And the elevator's ready for you.
Thank you. And I'll head in.
Yeah, you guys step on in, and the doors close behind you. There's no buttons or anything in here, no terminal. It's just a box, and you feel it briefly begin to move, very faintly. It's quite hard to tell. It'd be much harder to tell that it was moving at all if there wasn't the the window in it that seems to look out over the docking areas. And
Kit kind of takes down his rifle and double checks that it's loaded and ready to fire, and puts it back again.
yeah, you check through your rifle in the sort of half-minute journey, and it seems to be just as you left it, which is probably with the safety
It's
off.
ready to fire.
Yep. And a moment or so after you stow it again, the doors to the elevator where you stepped in open again, and you step out into what appears to be a sort of corridor. A number of offices along each side, each one labelled with a name. Mr. Smith Johnson being the first one on your right.
Yeah, go up, knock on the door.
You knock on the door and... Come on in. I've been expecting you.
Oh god, that's never a good way to start stuff. Open up and walk in.
You open the
Yeah,
door.
I'll walk in right behind her.
Alright. We'll walk...
I'm staying close to the door and the exit, so just for sure.
Okay.
Just a sniping range.
Kit will kind of walk in and kind of, you know how it's called, kind of, you move like in and then to the side
Yeah.
as you're clearing the room. Yeah, Kit is doing that and also checking over the room. Like, okay, how many exits? How many people inside? You know, doing all military
Yeah.
rundown basically.
As Kit steps in and Clee steps to one side, and Ray, you step in and look around and sort of step to the other side, really, staying by the exit, not wanting to get too close. There is a single Terran man in the office, behind a desk. There's 2 chairs in front of it, and a large window behind him that seems to just look out over space. There's a number of papers strewn across the desk, actual physical papers, which are quite rare these days. And
How does the man look like? Like, is he old? Is he young?
he's sort of middle-aged. It's quite hard to tell. He's maybe 130, which in human years would put him around sort of like 45 going on 50, that kind of age.
Middle-aged.
Yeah. So, sort of looking about that old, and he like quite dark skin, but like I guess actually yeah, be quite dark skin for what you're used to, which is not particularly dark skin, just because spacefaring folk tend not to be, due to the nature of the environment, and he's got sort of a very weathered look to him, as if this office life is quite new. He's not been here very much. He's much more used to being out in the open doing things.
Do I recognise the name or him?
You don't recognise the name. It seems to be as generic as possible. You don't recognise him.
He seems to be generic as possible.
No, he's surprisingly not generic. He seems to stick out like a sore thumb, as if he shouldn't be here. He should be working in a mechanic shop, planet side somewhere, not here. Office life doesn't really seem to suit a man of this build, but he seems almost squeezed into the small chair. He gestures for you guys to take a seat, and take a seat, or don't. Doesn't bother me.
Fair enough.
So,
I'll just sit.
Captain
What is it
Lexie
you
Bennet,
did?
is it?
Aye, that's me. I'll put feet up, sort of.
Yeah.
On like something, maybe not the table, but something that makes it comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of like cabinets around. You'd be able to stick your feet on one if you wanted.
Yeah.
You take a pretty relaxed stance. You do that.
I'll
How
also
many
sit
chairs
down.
are there?
Just the 2.
Okay.
Just 2.
They seem to be relatively Terran in proportion. They don't really fit either of you two, being huge. Well, not huge, but like tall as far as Terrans go, and quite big and bulky, especially with your armor. But you sit down anyway. So, well, my name is Mr. Smith Johnson, as far as you're concerned. I am quite obviously here with Interorbital Inc. We are providing the solutions for future technologies, or something. I didn't really pay attention. Now, what's more important is I have a contact that has come into a significant sum of money, and what's more, some information.
Okay.
Now, my contact believes that you are perhaps useful people. My
Depends on
contact,
what kind of useful you're looking for.
my contact claims that you're the only survivors, at least two of you are the only survivors of the distant night's tragedy.
Yeah.
Indeed.
2 of 5. Apparently 2 of them were unavailable, and the other wants nothing to do with any of this. We've already
Yeah, I
offered
would-
him the job, he's not interested.
I would not say two of them were particularly capable of doing quite a lot of things, because if you're calling us in, I'm assuming it's dangerous.
Well, that it is. A quick background check proves that maybe the high and mighty are not going to be all that useful.
Yeah. So, what's the job?
Well, that depends. If you're interested, it will take a significant chunk of time, and it's going to be bloody dangerous. Door's there if you want it. There's $500,000 credits on the table should you take it. Paid upon completion, of course.
As you can probably
Nothing up front?
understand,
Nothing up front. This is a dangerous operation.
as you can probably understand, I'd quite like to know what the job is before I make my final decision. But we'll hear you out, certainly.
Well, of course. So, there's a recording, I'm sure you've seen it in recent days, and I believe 2 of you actually were involved in, that's been making its rounds.
Was I anything there, mate?
A mysterious craft that was seen. You last spoke to my contact briefly before you set out to find this recording, apparently. My contact claims that this recording, once found, provided a single frame with just enough clarity in it to pull up some old Prioribi database. Have any of you ever heard? Have any of you ever heard of the Reliquary?
No.
Anyone with a rank in Prioribi, go ahead and give me a historical Prioribi check.
How do we do that?
Just use the roller stat macro and
A
add your
first roll of the game.
add your historical and any ranks you have in it. So
If I have a +5 in historical, could I roll?
yeah, go on.
Does Lisa have anything prior by?
Yes.
She does. Is Lisa here?
Is Lisa there?
Yeah, she's
Is Lisa
muted.
muted?
Has she mute herself, like the rest of us?
Lisa.
There's only 3 of you that's muted. Yes, no, 2 of yourself, possibly 3 now.
12. No.
Or she might have just died. How do you roll that? Oh wait, like it was 2D. Oh, wait, I can just do
There's
that.
do you have the macro?
Oh.
If you
I don't.
okay, if you turn on the macro bar,
Where's okay?
in
Where's...
the collection, it's just to the left of the settings icon on the top right.
Right. Okay.
Show
yeah.
quick macro bar, and also
Yeah,
roll a
I-
stat. Put that in
roll
bar,
a
and then
stat.
bottom
One
left,
big
this
Lisa.
button.
Show quick macro bar. Right. Got it.
Yeah, and then if you make sure you tick the roller stat, and then in the bottom left of your screen, there should be a little button showing up. You just click that,
Okay.
and
right.
it'll ask you for inputs
Wait,
and
okay,
stuff.
roll a stat and then
Yes.
proficient.
So this would be no because this is not something you
No.
can be proficient in.
The one time you really need Lisa.
Yeah.
This
You're-
is why we have you.
Yeah, because
This
really
is
she
your
has like
job.
she has like our highest ranking in POV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn it, Theo.
Bonus +1, I guess, because I have 1 ranking in POV, I believe.
And what's your history? You add them both together.
1 second, let me check.
So it's your history, and then each
uh,
rank gives you another +1. So
My historical is 3, and then PRB is 1.
so that's a +4. So
+4. Okay.
just I just put 4, don't put +4 because it'll break it.
Yeah. Just 1 second. 4 and then submit.
Yeah.
And
Ooh,
it should go.
17.
Ooh.
Nice. Okay, and we sort of really need Lisa, and she seems to have dropped off the face of the earth, which is great.
You want to roll for her, or
Oops.
Did she?
Is she there?
Yeah, she doesn't seem to be here.
I pinged her, so
She also said something, but
I guess we could call her.
Hmm?
I could.
Yeah, give me a
wake her
sec.
up
I
if,
will.
she's working it. No
Oh.
offense, Rick.
Hmm? Yeah, that's me. Why are you calling me?
Oh,
She's muted.
she,
She's
she,
not
she might
fucking
be in the
there.
bathroom or something. She's just.
yeah.
Maybe.
Because I heard the ringtone go through her fucking mic.
Yeah, I heard that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, let's continue.
We're having a brilliant set of time here.
Mhm.
Back
Anyway,
home,
let's
Yeah.
continue.
no
She,
expertise at all.
maybe that continue, maybe it doesn't, but she doesn't tell us.
Oh wait, so did Hex roll us 12 then?
Hex roll 12, yeah, it's just roll 1, because
Okay.
obviously, if you had advantage it would be, but you don't.
Right.
uh,
But okay, I rolled
right.
17, so that should be.
Yeah,
Fair enough,
let
I
me,
guess.
Ooh, that's my
Yeah,
wrong folder.
you've got
Also, just to clarify, because I didn't I almost accidentally interrupted you. When he first mentioned POV, like Seraph's head will like fucking look up if he was looking down. He will basically snap to it because
Yeah.
fucking any mention of POV is gonna get his attention.
Okay, yeah. Just, I'll roll for her in this case. 21, okay, I'm gonna assume she doesn't say anything. Alright, Seraph, you've been with her long enough.
Yes.
You
Yes.
would know. The reliquary is... It was pieces found. Data cores, bits and pieces of ship that have been, over the years, slowly pieced together. Maybe a single % of a starship, of a Priori starship that's been collected. It seems to have drifted over the millions of years that it's laid dormant. Destroyed, in fact. As far as anyone knows, it's the most recent Priori, like anything. It was the last active Priori device or structure that was occupied. And a tiny fragment of its data core has been retrieved, which is not... It doesn't contain enough to be fully accessed, but some few files have been pulled off of it. Very, very little, but it does seem to be that, from what they can tell, the reliquary is the most recently dated Priori device to have been ever interacted with by any of the Priori. It seems to be the last ship they ever had.
Right.
As far as anyone knows. But it's sort of destroyed in pieces, and they've only recovered tiny fragments of it.
Right. So the data drive is not. Reliquary is just pieces of a starship.
Yes, the reliquary is pieces of a starship.
Right. Got it. Right. Must. Yeah.
Yeah. Theo would potentially know a few of the bits of data that are on it, but she
Right. Just gonna assume that she's
doesn't.
not actually speaking RP
she
wise,
doesn't
and I'm just
say
trying
anything
to.
right now.
I'm
Would
just
you
gonna,
actually know
like-
that it is connected with the pure light?
Kit, what did you get? You got a 12?
12.
12. Reliquary. No, not with the 12.
Okay.
It's not the most well-known thing, really. It's sort of a thing that people in the business would know, but it's not
What
really
did
a thing.
what did he ask, by the way?
He just asked if any of you had heard of it.
I definitely have heard of it, but and I assume my partner here has as well. What of it?
Good. Well,
can you fill the rest of us in for the ones that don't? By the way.
Okay then. Okay. Well, in that
So it
case,
gestures for you to go ahead.
and then I will just essentially say what you told me.
Yes, the reliquary is shattered fragments of a starship, one of the last ever recorded. But importantly, she seems to have part of her data drive has been recovered. And it doesn't seem to have been afflicted with whatever it was that seems to have wiped the Prioribi out. The reliquary seems to have been destroyed in other means. She left a tiny fragment of data core that we have retrieved, and the bigwigs at Interorbital have been attempting to decode for the last century. However, they have recovered a few things. One of which is this. And he, gestures to the windows behind him, which sort of flicker to life as a big screen, like hollow screen, appears in front of them, showing what appears to be a black, just solid black, with a kind of green triangle-looking thing in the middle. It's really fuzzy and hard to make out, and it seems to be very difficult to see, but it seems to be covered in these yellow, welts, almost. If it was the same thing that you saw, Lexie, Charlissandra, which is this almost green flying pyramid that seems to be constructed of a thick hide stretched between bone, spikes, with a large spike coming out the front and one at each corner. Then these sort of welts would be maybe a meter or two across, and it seems to be oozing something from them. It's very hard to make out. This image was found on the drive. Sorry, what?
Does it look exactly like what attack or sort of scanned past us?
No, it doesn't look exactly like anything. It looks roughly like it could be the same thing with a bunch of yellow stuff all over it, which is not something you saw.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, this green, it seems to have this single horn almost, at the front, and then that seems to split in three into these sort of almost ribcage-like spikes that protrude backwards, with this thick hide stretched between them. You don't see the rear end of it in this shot. And it has these sort of yellow bumps across it, which were not there before.
Okay.
This would appear to be very similar to another picture we've been seeing a lot recently. And he sort of gestures at the screen, and again, one of the stills that you took, which is this thing in much crisper detail. This green, semi-organic looking, triangular, pyramidal almost, starship.
Well, an amazing photograph.
It's not the best quality because you were having a few power issues at the time. But it's there, and it doesn't appear to have these yellow welts across it. Now, obviously, there's a bit of difference between these, but this one image came with a location attached. A tag. Now, we might think this is the tag of where this picture was taken, but if backdating to the time that this was recorded, if you track every star backwards a few million years, you'll find the first ring world, notably underneath the surface of the first ring world. Deep in its core, if they have such a thing, there seems to be some sort of laboratory from what we can tell. We've investigated somewhat. There is some kind of Prioribi facility there. It seems to be mostly non-functional. Now, my contact has come into the information that there is a key to whatever this is there. A map of sorts. Perhaps a set of coordinates, perhaps another picture like this. We're not quite sure. But from what we've deciphered, we know that there is something that should lead us to a few more answers about these sightings.
Okay.
What's most worrying is that if these things were around when the Prioribi were, as it seems they were, even in a different form perhaps, these things are beyond ancient.
Or it's possible what we saw was just a scout. And this one with the yellow welts, that's the ones that actually do the damage.
That...
So the outs could just be ways to spark acid at us. And just hurt us that way.
That is a solution that we have considered, and one we're taking quite seriously. Unfortunately, this laboratory is a little bit on the government-controlled side, let's just say. They don't let anyone in, they don't let anyone out of the core infrastructure of a planet with a population reaching into the hundreds of trillions, for obvious reasons. There seems to be no way to get in. That's where you come in. We need someone to get in. We need someone to find whatever the map is. We need someone to follow that trail of thought and follow that train to its end. Whatever the solution for these things is that's there, bring it back to us, and there's 500,000 credits for you.
Right. We're going to need a lot of information if we're doing this.
Yeah.
Any information, no matter how pointless it is, I want it for this facility.
Alright, we'll give you what we have. There's a few rough scans of the world, but we can't get blueprints. I thought... Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
He also-
sorry, do you want your bed? Like, speak tomorrow if you want.
It's been a particularly long day and you're a little late.
Clearly.
So we're not late.
We don't have any blueprints, but we do have a basic scan showing perhaps a few of the rooms. We also can provide you with information regarding the Watch of the World. We also happen to know of a certain daily sensor glitch that happens as a number of the patrol craft pass between the rings themselves. There is a brief window, 5 minutes or so, which the outer section of the ring is unwatched.
Can I quickly pull up a data pad and sort of get information to see how far we would need to travel in that time?
Yeah. You pull it up, and he, seems to jot through a few files, put in a password, and then flings over a file to it. And you get a transmission request from him.
Let's go through it.
Yeah, you accept it, and this file pops up. It appears to be basically a render of the ring, and it shows the awareness spheres of the ships, showing what they can scan, basically. And it shows their shadow as they pass between the rings.
Yargon.
Yo.
Is it just like we can't get on the planet at all, or is it?
You could get on the planet, but this is one of the ring worlds, so it's a large ring basically built around a star.
Oh, okay.
It's like massive in proportion, and this seems to be buried deep within part of the ring. And as these ships like cross through the center of the ring, you see there's a sort of brief period where maybe a few 100 kilometers of this ring go into shadow, where a ship could possibly slip in and disappear
Is
up
it
against
if
it.
you went to Ring World, you're get on it, but you're heavily monitored for the entire time you're there?
It's not like that you're heavily monitored. It is it's not only a planet, it's a planet with 1,000 times the surface area of Earth. It's huge. They're not monitoring the entire thing, but any ship is going to be noticed anywhere in the system. Except, it appears, in the sort of shadow of sensor cones, most of which is taken up, but there does appear to be one or two places on this ring where you could hide in the sensor cone shadows. But obviously if you passed into them, they'd know where you were, so if you got into one that's right by kind of where you need to be, actually, you, like, as this passes, you can get yourself up against the side of this ring world and essentially disappear.
Can I make sure that it was possible to get there, if that makes sense, of, like, with the timings?
With a ship like yours? No, it wouldn't be. If you took one of the shuttles, though, probably.
Okay.
How far away from where we landed with, if we were gonna land there with the shuttle, how far away from our target are we then?
It depends. There's a lot of landing pads across a place that size.
Like the closest we can get.
It's just one big city as well. There's no, like...
No, not on this. This is the first ring world. You're thinking Ring 13. Ring 13 is the one that is just city. Like, all the other ones, they actually have, like, terrain and stuff on them.
Right, so there's parts of Ring World 1 where we could land and never need to interact with the city.
Yeah, a ship like yours, though, doesn't have landing gear. You would have to land in a dry dock, which you could do. And you could then get a shuttle from there and be like, oh, we're just going on a trip, and sort of, like, with a shuttle, you can easily just dodge through, like, fly low under radar. You can do that. That's not too difficult.
Right.
You can disappear with a shuttle quite easily.
Yeah. Right. But how far away from... what's the closest kind of thing we can land?
By the look of it, you'd probably have to be in the shuttle for an hour or two. There is a topside like landing facility and repair facility that's not too far from where you want to be, maybe a few 100 kilometers off.
Is there anywhere that we could land without needing to land somewhere like that?
Not unless you want to spend literal days in the shuttle just ditching your ship in deep space and then shuttling your way over and just disappearing. Being too small to be picked up on sensors and just not even being seen at all.
I'm meaning landing our ship in a dry dock and then taking a shuttle and landing in the middle of, like, a forest.
Oh, I mean, you could do that, but the problem is you need to get to the underside, which has no atmosphere or anything. There's nothing on the underside.
Right.
It appears to be closer to the underside than the top side of the planet.
Right. So we need to go to a station there.
Yeah, probably. I mean, with the shuttle, you can just sort of hop over the edge because the shuttles are sealed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right. So we could get there without being noticed and land not in a sort of populated area.
Yeah, you could. You'd have to land your ship somewhere popularized, but you could then get your shuttle, disappear, and arrive there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That looks like it would work.
That's what we'll need to do. Do you know anything about the base itself? Any way of getting in?
Getting in, not so much. We know there's a network of tunnels that seem to pass through the ring world that we used for maintenance and part of the construction. We also know that there's the large particle beams in the center. You want to stay away from those.
Okay.
Just don't interact with them. That's not going to go well.
the guards in the facility?
In the facility itself, we have no idea. We've never got anyone inside. We've got a very rough scan showing where it is, based on a few elements we know are on board the Reliquary, and picking up a radiation signature, weak as it might be, from inside the facility. Beyond that, we can't get anything.
Any weapon depots or storage facilities or anything at all that you happen to have nearby the facility itself?
I'm afraid it's incredibly deep underground. There's
You don't
nothing.
know anyone that works there.
It's not been opened as far as I know. It's a Priority facility that, well, most people don't seem to know of. However, from what we can tell, it is literally attached to the particle beams inside the ring, which would be why we're not allowed in.
Okay.
Are
Anything
they
else?
aware of what the map or whatever it is that we're looking for? Are they aware of the existence of said map?
We've kept that close to our chests.
Right.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
Sorry.
Yeah,
He
go on.
just had a moment.
So there is no. The government doesn't know that it's there.
We've asked for access to it. They haven't been informed why. Or, not the real reason. We told them that there was potentially some research to be done there on the particle beams, how they work.
Everyone's cold.
Uh,
Everyone's quiet.
you're
The
back.
reason why?
You're like,
Yeah,
well,
we needed you.
Lisa,
Yeah.
hi. What happened?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
You were gone.
Oh, I don't know.
What? Oh. Okay, well, yeah, we,
okay.
that was a Priority knowledge check, which you missed. Because
Oh.
you died. I don't know. Yeah, it was about the Reliquary, which is an ancient Priority ship that pieces, tiny fragments of, have been found, including a tiny piece of a data core. And as far as anyone knows, it's the most recent Priority ship that was ever constructed. Or not ever constructed, ever used.
Do you want me to roll a stat or not?
You already
I
did.
rolled for you because we couldn't get hold of you. And yeah, basically you got that, which is pretty much as much as you're gonna get, because you have a bonus of like just I succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't informed anyone of the real reason we want you
Any reason
there.
why?
Interorbital finds that it would be far more beneficial to recover the remaining pieces of the Reliquary without people knowing, without government intervention. And my contact, or should I say my sponsor, believes that the information that you would be retrieving for them could be of use.
Can I ask either who this sponsor is or what they're going to do with this information?
I'm afraid there are some questions I can't answer.
That's
The sponsor hasn't elected to reveal themselves to me, only that they're someone you spoke with once, briefly before setting out upon the mission in which this recording was encountered. And,
Who did we speak to before we did that?
who did you speak to before you did that?
Fuck, it's been a year for me.
Yeah, well, it's been a year for you.
Time to go and rewatch the video.
It's realistic memory degradation. You're welcome.
Oh fuck.
What a wonderful game mechanic.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I'm afraid I know very little. I'm just a liaison. It's sort of playing both sides here.
Fair enough.
Now, inside the facility itself, you can expect some kind of resistance, I would assume. Rai'Tarwek aren't known for leaving their things unguarded, especially near the centre of Ringworlds and the particle beams within. You want to be careful about that.
What sort of...
I'm afraid we've no idea. Of whatever it is, it's probably not going to be too friendly. So, keep an eye out.
Any rules about killing people?
We'll
To
try
get
not...
in and out,
Just one.
or
Don't.
don't,
Make-
or try not to.
Not
but
at all.
make them-
It's make sure, whatever you do, that it cannot be traced back to you, or to us. If it's traceable back to you, then that's your problem. If it's traceable back to us, then we're your problem.
That is fair. As long as we know that we are allowed to kill if needed.
If required, well, I'd rather you didn't. It doesn't really matter either way. We don't expect you to find much in the way of living creatures down there.
I'm more thinking of the people topside. They
I
causes any issues.
doubt you'll experience any, but if you do, do what needs doing.
Will do.
From all we know, this is incredibly valuable data. And whatever that creature is, or that... it looks like a creature, it could be incredibly useful as well. So,
If it becomes hostile,
if what becomes hostile?
It's
the
already
creature that you
hostile.
talked about.
Well, it's already crippled one ship.
Trust me, it's hostile. It doesn't have anything to kill you from the looks of it yet, but it can certainly fuck you over in other ways.
Yeah, it's more if that happens.
There's nothing you can do.
Well,
No, there's nothing you can do. It drains all power. There's no way you can move your ship. There is no way. Like when
Really? Why is Discord having such a moment?
There you go.
yeah, I was dying there for a moment.
What do I say?
Yeah, my connection was dying.
Yeah.
Could at least
There we
try.
go. Is that better?
Do you have any qualms with us
No, it's
trying?
done again.
Hold on a second. Discord's absolutely dying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Jesus, just this.
How's that? Is that better?
We didn't hear anything from
Yes,
Lisa,
that's
did we?
better.
Yeah, at least we can hear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh,
Yes, they are here.
You want to-
They, she.
wait, when did Lisa get
Slightly
back?
confused at what's going on, but I'm just gonna pick up on context clues and figure it out.
I'll send you a quick
Yeah.
recap in a bit.
Uh,
Sorry, it's.
Don't worry, we're probably going for break
I
shortly.
pulled a Rick. I apologize.
That's okay, we're probably going to take a break in a second anyway. If and when you accept the contract. Or when. Or decide to, not, because that's always an option.
Oh yeah, fuck that. Bye.
Well done.
And if it becomes
Yeah.
hostile, do you have any qualms of us trying to destroy it?
If you encounter one of those creatures, well,
Spam print screen and try to jump. That's the only thing you can do.
When you
yes,
say it
I
drains the ship's
recommend-
power, do you mean temporarily or permanently?
Temporarily while it's in your vicinity. It comes back once the engine's allowed to kick that in, but they can't kick in while it's there.
Right.
There is nothing we can do at the moment in our ship.
Yeah, the footage
So-
of this... Sorry,
That's fine, go on.
I was going to say, the footage of this thing that you've seen does seem to be in two parts. As it approaches, it just cuts off, and it kicks back in again as it leaves.
Right, fair.
And it's... I can't remember. Yeah, we didn't take shots at it.
No, you
But
didn't.
the armor...
You didn't get to.
Yeah, before it even came into range, we were shut down.
Yeah, it just
Wait,
killed
would
the
that
car.
mean that I would shut down as well?
That is a possibility.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I don't like shutting down.
I imagine not.
So we avoided
It's
it all costs
con-
at the moment
essentially.
until we got
Yes.
out.
Yes, avoidance seems like the best possibility at the moment. However, you're 50,000 light years from where it was last seen.
Yeah.
So we don't think you'll be encountering it. We also, I should point out, don't know if there's more than one of these things.
I would imagine if they killed them all, it's possible.
Killed who all?
Well, why else would the probi
Prioribi.
disappear so quickly?
That
something
is...
killed them.
We're aware something killed them. We're also aware there was some sort of war happening, from what we can tell, at the time that they seemed to disappear. But
Oh, these are what they were at war with?
not a clue.
Would we
Right.
know, by the way? Yeah. do we-
Go ahead and roll historical prioribi.
Right.
So, okay, run me through how the ranks work again.
So basically, for you, because you've got a +3 on prioribi and a 4 history, that's a +7 because you just add them together. So just roll a stat and then not proficient +7.
Submit. 4. Submit. And maybe.
That's what, 15?
Yeah, and she rolled a 19.
And I'm afraid neither of you have any idea what they were at war with.
No, that's fair.
Yeah. It's
So another nat 20. Oh, right. No, that's her nat 20. Never mind.
yeah, it's known that they were, but you don't know of any records that say anything about what they were fighting.
Yeah.
Wait, was 120 and the 120 crit and then the other 21 not a crit?
Because it's 2 dice,
Yes, you
so
roll.
only one of them
Oh,
could be a
right.
crit.
Right, okay.
It could, yeah. If you hover over it, it'll explain.
Oh, okay, right. I should do
It
that.
just,
Okay.
it just
It's
means
not
at least one of the
D20.
dice is a crit. But the other
I
one
see.
could be lower than the other, like 2 combined.
Right.
We don't use D20s for some reason.
Because it changes the probability curve. I'm not going to get into it because it's
It makes a
maths.
bell curve instead of a.
Actually makes more of a peak, but yeah.
Yeah.
Need 3 for
That's
curve.
fine.
Yes. So. Right. So. The question on the table.
Other question before this is, when we walk out this door, are we ever to contact you again either way, or are we allowed to report in and get help?
Once you walk out that door, I don't expect to ever hear from you again.
Okay.
At
so we've
least.
got-
Once you walk out that door, should you choose to accept, another message will be sent to you from a different location. Beacon's already set up. Now, should you receive that message, it will give you further instruction as to how to retrieve the data and how to return it and get paid.
Okay.
It goes without saying, if you tell anyone about what happened here today,
Don't worry, we already know the rules.
there will be
Message
consequences.
self-destruct?
They always say that.
Most of them don't have half of interorbital at the back, though.
But they've got scary pirates.
Well then, take that message.
So,
So, the question on the table. Are you in?
can I speak to my crew in private first?
Of course. And he stands up and heads out, picks up a glass off the table and heads outside.
Right then. We all up for it, or
Well,
You, Cap.
yes.
what was that?
Up to you, Cap.
Okay, so we've got one in the middle. We've got one that's 4. Anyone against?
I suppose Theo would definitely say yes.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go along with Seraph.
It has to do with the pre-orb. We're gonna find data that's gonna relate to them somehow.
Oh, hell yes, please. Yes, let's go. Do it. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Have you been paying attention to any of
No,
this?
listen, okay, I fell asleep and then I woke up like 20 minutes into this conversation. I said I pulled a Rick, and I'm sorry. So I was just like, I'll just go along.
I guessed it. I called it as well. I called it as well. Sorry.
I'm assuming you've just been sleeping in the back of the room then?
Yeah.
Just leaning up against the door.
She's a doctor. She's
We're
doing
on an
strange stuff.
Listen, we're on an interesting fucking space station.
She's
and
just distracted.
I was just reading about the plants. They're so interesting. Okay.
Right. I'm guessing you're with me either way, Liz? Oh, Rick's pulled a Rick.
Rick.
Sorry, I'm muted, apparently.
Okay.
Alright, never mind.
Again.
Yeah, now it's my turn.
Fuck's sake.
But as I said, Liz, I'm guessing you're with me either way with this? Or...
Yep.
Yeah. Right then, right, call him back in, fuck it, we'll do it. Why not?
Maybe I'll score
Okay.
half of the money if we manage to get the map thing.
We'll need to speak to him properly about how payment's working.
Well, I suppose that the payments are going to be in phone when we get that extra message.
Yeah, I would like to speak to him a bit about how the payments work slightly though.
That's fair.
But bring them back in and then that'll do it.
I'm gonna knock on the window, glass pane door thing.
Well, it's a solid wood door. It seems to be.
Well, then knock on that.
Okay.
Knock any doors.
Or...
You knock on it. There didn't seem to be a response.
Open it.
You open it. You see him. He's like standing by a water cooler, talking to what appear to be a pair of other office workers, like down, and he like seems to notice you, but doesn't make any gesture as you. It
Okay,
doesn't
then I'm
like
gonna-
go, but like you like clearly make eye contact for a brief second.
Right. Well, I'm gonna close the door and just wait.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
A moment or so later, really, he's like, you hear him like laugh, and then he sort of excuse himself from a conversation. He makes his way back and heads in. He comes back in and sits down again. So, made your mind up?
Yeah, we have a few concerns with the payment
What's that?
side of it. So, how's payment working? We get it all after we get the map, or get the map and then follow it?
Once the information, what I've been told, because I have no hand in the payment,
Yeah.
is that once the information has been followed to its end, you will be paid in full. You will be in contact with perhaps my contact by that time.
Okay. Can you send them the message that we'll need either an upfront cost to cover any expenses?
I'm afraid I can't send them any message.
Can you not?
I can only authorise that you've agreed or not.
Okay, when we meet them, we need to have a really serious conversation about how you deal with us.
It's a little bit non-negotiable, this sort of thing.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And they tend to be.
As I said, we'll need all the information you could possibly provide. Any, even stupid stuff will be helpful, but yeah, we'll do it, I think, because
Very
we've got
well.
nothing else to do in this area of space.
Well, you did come all this way.
We'll be at least covering fuel.
Yes, that's just about, I suppose. All right. Well, in that case, and he sort of extends a hand towards you, Lexie.
Yeah. I'll take my feet down and sort of get into a more official pose and
Yeah.
shake his hand.
Shakes your hand. Very well. Welcome to this little merry band of beggars.
Oh,
Yeah.
side note, I've got someone that really wants to see some plants. I don't understand. Can you sort that out for them, or?
Plant. He like looks over.
Yes, hello. Sorry, well, I read about that there's several
I roll
species
my
of
eyes.
plants here that were on Terra Maxima that don't exist anywhere else anymore, and I was wondering if I could get a chance to look at them because, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I believe there are still some in the public viewing areas. And he like brings up a map and quickly sort of pings it over to you, and you get a map.
Oh, thank you.
That sort of has directions marked on it dynamically. Yeah, there you go. All right, very well. I will. You should receive the message with further instruction in the next 2 days or so.
Fair enough.
Until then, I've already given you everything I have. It was in that data packet. Unfortunately, it's disappointingly little. Best of luck out there.
I'll scrub fully through it shortly. And thank you. Lovely meeting you.
Lovely meeting you.
Amazing to see you.
I hope we never see each other again.
If you're offering us contracts like this, we might. And let's go.
Yeah. So,
Just leave.
you guys head outside. He clearly like presses a button on his desk that as you step outside, you see the elevator doors like slide open.
Yep.
Okay. So, as you guys step out and make your way back down to the main promenade, I assume out of the interorbital offices. Should we take a break here?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll take a quick break here, and we will be back shortly.